Hey there. Before we start this episode, I wanted to jump into your ears straight away and let you know how you can support us best with this podcast so we can keep this going. So the most important thing that when you have listened to this episode would be share. Spread the word, drop our name, drop us in the conversation. If you see a question popping up somewhere, say, the Damn Parenting Ladies, they have an episode on this. Pop the episodes out. Get us into the conversation of the communities. This is the best way to support Eva and me. And give us a like on Spotify. Give us a follow. Jump over to Instagram, Damn Parenting Podcast. Make sure that you spread the word about what you like, why you like the episodes, and that you spread the knowledge that we are putting out there so it can be heard and received by everyone who needs to hear this. And this is what I just wanted to drop with you before now you can enjoy them chat or an expert episode. So let's see what's going to be on. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Damn Parenting, your English-speaking parenting podcast from Amsterdam. And we are your hosts, Maren and
Eva.
We were thinking, okay, what is a topic that we can pick up from this week? And because Eva and I have been frantically texting about a very big thing that's going on in Eva's life, we thought, why don't we bring this to the table? And we thought about inviting an expert, but then we also thought, what's the value really going to be from that expert? And I think, especially with this topic, you really want to get the real answers, the itty-gritty, nasty truth and the stress and all that. So we are talking about finding a house in Amsterdam or finding a house in the greater area. Let's put it that way. And Eva, congratulations, has just, after how long? How long have you been looking?
Okay, so the truth is, we started looking when we found out we were pregnant 4.5 years ago.
All right, so there you go. And she signed finally last week.
Well, no, because of COVID, we realized, okay, the first year not so important, and then second year COVID really still had an impact. So technically, it's 2.5 years.
Okay, so anyway, you finally signed after what felt really like a lifetime, and you made it happen. You hit all the boxes that you wanted to hit, which was also extra challenging because you were looking for the golden nugget, a ground floor apartment with no stairs. Yes, I know some people are going to be like, okay, like, well, why
compared
don't you
to your house?
Yeah, exactly. I have 5 flights of stairs here in the house. Yeah. And also why we wanted to have a chat about this topic is because Eva and I had very different experiences from finding our houses and going through very different journeys to nail that one down. So why don't you give us a little insight on how it has been for you? And especially also what we wanted to address was not just how do we find a house, of course, but because we are Damn Parenting and we also talk about relationships and we talk about a little layer deeper. How was this whole journey also with your partner and what were the issues or what were the topics that you ran into when going on that crazy journey of finding a house?
It was one of those things where I'm just crippling. And honestly, I brought it up constantly to my therapist. It's the only way to put it. So, I think one of the problems I had was you have 2 different people from 2 different cultures. And I had a specific way I was raised, and I ideally would like to be raised that, like in the same way. My husband also had a similar upbringing, but was also extremely open. And obviously we wanted to stay in Amsterdam, around the same area we are still living in. And it was one of those things that is like, okay, how do we do this? So you have your wish list. And then it was a case of, well, this is my wish list. It wasn't our wish list. It was mine. And after like 2 years, it was like, maybe I need to go easy and kind of be more flexible, maybe. But it was just that thing that I honestly it was a very stressful period of time. And I do believe I could feel it, the tension in the house and the energy wise with my child. And I could, it was reflected upon it, I felt, because things were getting tight. You're getting very short of space with a child that's growing astronomically because she's half Dutch. So,
yeah. But and also with school choices and just where do you want to like start the roots for your child, in what environment, in what district, where are your friends moving? Like it's really like long decisions. I mean, the good thing is that Amsterdam, me coming from Berlin, where you have to take the subway everywhere 20 or 40 minutes, it's relatively reachable wherever you live. But of course, now I do this schlep from I live on Prince Island and now I have to go back to the pipe for the daycare. So I know what it is driving 3 times a week, 20 minutes each way. So it does take a lot of time and energy. So you do want to be mindful of, okay, where is the school that we want to go to? Where is the environment that we want to be in? So we don't add this extra layer of all this traveling and going over the whole city.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing was when it came to school choices, I basically sat in my hands because I was like, well, we don't know where we're going to live. We don't know where we're going to live. But our deadline was in, I think, March, and we had to put something down. And I was like, damn it, like, okay. And I just put the one at the end of my school now down. And the funny thing is the house that we bought, when I asked them, where do your kids go to school? They were like, oh, far down here. And I was like, oh, and they asked, oh, where's yours? And when we said this school, they were like, that's the school we wanted. But because of our postal code, we weren't allowed to apply for it. So I was like, oh, okay. And it's actually a shorter distance than his kid's school, weirdly, he said.
But are you still going to be allowed to go to that school then?
Yeah, because we've been accepted.
Yeah, okay. Uh-huh.
People move, you know,
Okay.
you don't have to move schools. There was so much involved. And the thing was, as I said, you have your wish list and it was constantly like this ideal life in my head. But the thing is, I'm never going to get my semi-detached house with a massive back garden and a front garden. And you don't have that in Amsterdam. And I really struggle with actually kind of trying to accommodate to be saying, these are apartments, we're going to get an apartment, that was that kind of thing that I was really struggling with, just to kind of go into the nitty gritty kind of it all, I guess, was when we got the Mackler, my husband kind of just chose it. And I was on a couple of those Facebook accounts, like streaming, like who suggested who, and I was going through it. And at the end of the day, like we went with a Dutch Mackler who basically my husband negotiated with because you're meant to negotiate with him apparently, which I wasn't aware. I spoke to your husband actually about that during that period as well. And we came up with this terms and agreement, but I was very vague on it. And then anytime I was watching or reading other people talking about their house hunting, people were like, oh, here's a house. And they came and viewed it with us and they showed us this, and this. And I'm like, I'm the one who did all the work. I'm the one who looked for all the houses. I'm the one who arranged the appointments. And I was on Reddit, Netherlands Housing on Reddit, by the way. It's an excellent supportive resource for many of us. And yeah, the struggles, and we put some bids in and we didn't get the bids. And I mean, the bidding system here is also a new concept. That was kind of crushing actually as well, is like that bidding thing. Closed envelope, basically bidding. And, you really start putting your heart into it going, I got it. And then at 4:00 on a Friday, you get a phone call to say you didn't get it. And what a way to spend your weekend with your children, like kind of like feeling like crap and having to start all over again on this damn search. Yeah.
And then it rains all the time and you're caught in your old apartment. It does not make it any better. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. And so the thing is, it really was like a full-time job. Is the only way I'm going to put it. This became a full-time job and it became an obsession. And it was basically, and this is how I ended up doing it was, so I'm on Funda every single morning, I'll check it, or every evening. But I also then created all the website links of all the different estate agents because I believe they put it up on their website first. And then it might go up on Funda a couple of days later. And then I realized, some of them moved to Insta. So I ended up setting up an Insta account and followed all the Macklers, selling like.
Wow. Okay. You really you've done it all.
Yeah. And it's honestly, it's crippling. And I do wonder if we had agreed that our Mackler is the one who goes out and searches and provides us instead of me doing all the searches, if that would have been better for my mental health and time and energy. Yeah. Wow.
Yes. But then also it's like, okay, if you put this into someone else's hands, how thoroughly are they going to do it? And you're not their only client. So it's like, of course, I get it. And especially if you are under somewhat of a time pressure or just need to get out of there for different reasons, then of course you don't want to be someone in their book that, okay, now I have to look for a house for this family, but I have 10 other families that I also need to find houses. And then you have competition within their client base and all that. So I guess, I mean, it is, no one can prevent themselves from like not doing it. So.
Yeah. And I think, just to give a broader text, like we're living in a 1-bedroom apartment with a 3.5-year-old because before we found out we were pregnant and we didn't know if we'd be able to get pregnant, we were like, you know what? We prefer to travel. That's all we ever did before we got pregnant. And that was our thing. So we were like, we only need a small place. We don't need much. But then that became a major tension for us that we were in such a small place as our child was growing and growing. And so the pressures were there. And so when it became 2, there was huge pressure. When it became 3, it became enormous. And then it was like, oh no, the school deadline is on this date. So this is our deadline. And we kept missing all these deadlines. And so there was immense pressure that way for us.
And also on your relationship, because it's like not only no one gets privacy, like you don't get privacy as a couple, your daughter who gets older. And also my daughter shuts the toilet door in front of me and said, Mom, I need some privacy here. I'm like, oh, girl. So this is like, speaking of the relationship layer of this whole process, it is, it's not, it really affects you on different levels and it puts extra pressure. So everyone who's sitting in that boat, it's totally okay. You're not a failure. You're not doing anything wrong. This is just the reality of things. If you are living in a contained space, then these are the challenges that you face, and it's not easy. It's not easy.
No, I mean, we have like one of those kitchen, sitting room, living room kind of just open space with one bedroom. And the thing was, like, if you make noise in the kitchen, it's the wall with the bedroom. And we had to get it, like, you know, we got dressed basically in the sitting room before we went into the bedroom. You know, it was overwhelming and it was very stressful. And I do know, like, I think I know now 3 people in the last 4 months who've now bought a home or bought and sold. And none of them are in Amsterdam. You know, they just got lucky and they said, you know what, we have a specific mindset. And so we're going to go out, we're going to buy a car, and this is how we're going to live our life now.
You are the only person in my close friend circle who still lives in Amsterdam. Everyone else just sent me over the last couple weeks and months, hey, we found a house. I'm like, oh my God, where? 20 minutes car ride. 20 minutes, like everyone is moving out, of course, because the market is still very crazy, from coming from crazy prices down to nothing is available.
Yeah.
So it's like, we are in tough times. It's not an easy market where you just go out, you search for a month, you search for a couple of weeks, and then you got it. But it's really, you have to put in the work. Every apartment that's thrown on the market has so many people interested. And so it is, you're the only one who's left with me in Amsterdam. Everyone else is like going.
Well, I mean, I completely understand it. It's just the fact that, like, you know, sidebar note, I guess, is like, my husband works shifts. And so the thing is, if he works until say 4 a.m. or so, there's no trains. Like, I know some of his colleagues will sit in the train station until the first train. So that's an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I'm thinking in my head, there's no way that's a life that I want to have for my family. And so that's why it was a case of, when we were setting out our goals, we also had realistic goals of kind of, well, you know, this is really, it's not just the lottery. The school system is the lottery here. The housing thing is just selling yourself to the devil to be able to say, okay, this is what we're going to put up with. And yeah, I mean, honestly, we bought our house after seeing it for, I think, 10 minutes in total between the two of us on 2 different days. Makelaar never even got to see it. And we were like, this is our only shot.
So what exactly did this makelaar do then for you?
Yeah, well,
other than charge you some commission?
Did you know what?
Find the apartment yourself?
Yes,
or was
that was me. And I arranged the appointment. No, actually, do you know what's really funny was what he did was he suggested certain people, like, you have a taxateur or an advisor or the I can't remember, the appraiser, that was it. And actually, this is a funny story, is like, when you're actually putting a bid on a house, you have conditions. So you might want to have evaluator come and check the house just to make sure how it is. Also, you have a time frame of the whole signing process and how, you know, the deposit or whatever. And the average time frame is 6 weeks. And our makelaar says, if you bring it down to 4 weeks, you know, the seller is like having the security, you know, so do that. So that means you have to have all your finances and everything done within 4 weeks. There was a freaking holiday week in our 4 weeks that we weren't aware of. No one told us. So we missed 1 week. Not only that, the appraiser, the person who comes and values your house, the makelaar arranged, he came, he saw the selling house. Apparently, the number he put forward, which has to be certified to get your bank bridge loan and stuff, he got audited by the housing association and they were challenging his model. And so we were waiting 2.5 weeks, which is normally a 2 or 3 day wait. We again were waiting. And I mean, that was causing, again, a lot of stress and a lot of pressure on my relationship, because we are so, you're like, well, why is it taking so long? Why is it us? Why is it us? Why is this, you know, this is only us, you know, this is ridiculous. And so, I mean, there's things like that happen. And, you know, you're wondering, why am I paying someone €700 to walk into my house for a 5-minute job, walking around, looking at everything, and then they walk out. And the funny thing is, that's the one, if you sell something, you have to pay for the 700. But if you buy it, you have to get another person to come in to do the exact same job and again pay €700. I mean, there's all these little costs that really crept up that we weren't aware of.
Some makelaars, I'm just going to throw this in there for anyone who's in that process. Some makelaars also have the license to be an appraiser. And then sometimes, so that's what we had when we had someone come in to evaluate our apartment that we sold before we bought the house that we're in now. He is also a makelaar, and he said, if you then hire me as a makelaar, you get the costs back. So some of them do that as well when you then sign up as a client. So if you want to save a little cost, or if you find a makelaar and then, oh, by the way, you also see they're an appraiser, then this could be also a tip to look out for.
Yeah. And the other thing was we went with a small group. So there's literally like 2 individuals working for their company. So they actually would work at the weekends. So like, I mean, they would work 7 days a week if they had to. But at the same time, you're also stuck to their times as well. And I have heard from other people who were in a group. So if they didn't like their macular, they got moved to another person, which they were very assured about and they were very happy. Yeah, basically this episode, like as Maren said, like I'm just texting you abuse basically and ranting on WhatsApp of just like, oh my God, like this is like, they say moving house, divorce, and death, I think are the 3 most stressful periods on a person's life. And I really,
and having
really
children.
Well, yeah, obviously. But I mean, I really underestimated. And especially, I think they need to add that to the Netherlands specifically, like buying or selling a home in the Netherlands as well is also a new one. Because it's so different. And the funny thing was, because I have family living in 3 different continents, they were all giving me their opinion of what happens, but it's from their system point of view, which is so different to here. Yeah. And so I'm constantly getting that added stress, and then it kind of pushes a button or triggers me, and I'm kind of like, oh, just F off. Like, I'm just so like, stop, that doesn't happen here. So it's not helping me. And you know what?
Equally, when you come from Germany, it's much easier to buy a house here because we've gone through the process in Germany, and that's a nightmare. So coming here, then I was like, oh, okay, easy breezy, walk in the park, notary, boom, done.
Well, funnily enough, my brother got a house like a couple of weeks ago, and like he just saw it, liked it, and I was in love with his place. And then like he put a bid in and he won it, and like he was annoyed that he didn't get the joy of this stress of trying to look for houses. It was a very, so when I was chatting to him, it was quite funny how he had a different system in Melbourne versus how we have it here.
Yeah. Speaking of having no stress, if anyone, I know you're getting sick and tired of Maren saying, well, actually, I didn't have that problem, or I hate to say, but my thing was like, so
like a deep breath, people.
Yeah. So if you want to hear the other end of this story, which by the way, I didn't force, I didn't focus on, I didn't like nothing. It just came to me. I found my house on Instagram. I still can't believe it. Yeah, I know. So, because I follow a person who did a house tour for the makler who was selling our house. And this person said, oh, I did this collaboration with this makler. Here's behind the scenes. And if you want to see the house, this is the link. So actually, you can find my house still on TikTok and Instagram. I'm not going to say which makler it is, but yeah, it's still out there. Now it's very transformed, but it is still there. So yeah, that was the story there. I saw the house, and it was, like you said, I wasn't frantically looking, but I was starting to look because the apartment that we were in was also getting quite small. And we had the decision if we're going to do a major gut renovation to get some more space, or we invest the money and buy a new place. The problem in quotations was that everything that newly renovated, I didn't like. Like, I can appreciate why people like the style that these houses were renovated like, but it was just nothing that I liked. And I thought, well, I'm not going to buy a brand new kitchen that I hate, and then I either going to hate or rip out. So it was just never an option. And this was the first house where I said, okay, yeah, I can work with this. This is nice. It's like a good solid foundation. Yeah. And then I saw the video. I sent the makler an email. A week later, we had the appointment. And I think this is also something, my husband is American. So obviously he's going to gamble, and he's not going to pay the full price in this. So he made like a very low ball offer. And then we didn't even get a response for 2 days from the makler. And then they said, oh, your offer was so low, they're not even going to counter. Like, they don't like take you seriously. And that, of course, then sent my husband into a big spiral of like, I'm going to show you who you're going to take serious and not. So he wrote a big long email why the price is the price he said, and why, like, let's negotiate. So at the end of the day, we settled down. But yeah, so then a week later, we accepted and put our house on the market, which was another story because we had a long story of selling our other apartment. But yeah, that was it. So Instagram, 2 weeks later, boom, here we are.
Yeah. And on the other flip side for us selling was I felt pressure from our macular, and it was literally like, clean your house out. And I'm like, I have stuff from when my baby was born still in this apartment. We had to pack everything, move everything. The photograph came in. I was in therapy that morning, I can tell you. And I sat there looking at my therapist going, it's a photographer coming in a few hours. I don't know how I'm going to deal with this. Like, I'm really like frozen. I'm overwhelmed by how the speed of how my mackeler does nothing. Then we buy a house and then he's quickly trying to sell our house like we're trying to get dismissed or rid of, is basically how I felt. And
so that was very different. Yeah, because we had such a long process of selling our house, because also we bought at peak price point for the house that we have now. So obviously we needed to get a good number on our other apartment, which was then we had also a little bit of time pressure because we knew the market is going to crash and we wanted to get into these. We also had 6 weeks. We had 6 weeks where the market was still somewhat high. And then we knew as soon as it's going to hit, it's going to fall. So we wanted to sell within these 6 weeks, which didn't happen. At the end of the day, it took us almost a year to sell. So that was then the other side of selling the apartment was not easy.
And stress.
So you had, and stress. Yeah. And
you had a year of stress then of that sitting above your head. So
yeah. And double mortgages, all that stuff. Like it was not cute. It was really not cute. However, I still am happy that we did it. But yeah, that was then, I guess, all the stress that I didn't have hunting the house, I had then selling my other house. So I guess it is stress. And also speaking on a relationship level again, yes, even though we didn't have the stress of finding the house, then moving into it, then we did have a couple of problems with it. And it just took a long while also to do the stuff that we wanted to change about it. And then having this other apartment sitting above our head was just always a friction and a tension. And because I was responsible also for like checking, going there every week, running the water, like it was just a full other like thing on my plate and when there was a big storm, I was like, oh my God, the shingles are gonna fall off? Is the leak gonna stop again? Like all this stuff. When it was freezing cold all of a sudden, I was like, I have to turn on the heat or turn it off or the water. It's like all this stuff that you have to do then. And yeah, it was just not easy on top of the financial pressure, of course, that you have, which always puts pressure on your relationship.
Yeah. And like, so that's kind of the reason why we're doing this episode is basically we're sharing our story of like, yeah, we've gone through it. As I said, I'm 2.5 years solidly trying to do something and finally it's worked. And I'm beyond grateful to the point that I'm overwhelmed still. And as I said, I'm going to therapy and I'm just talking to my therapist constantly, like going, oh God, and then this, and then this. I'm so grateful for it. And the thing is, I really appreciate now when people are putting their houses for sale, when you walk into them and you see how clean it is. I know now what it's like to be putting your house on and how clean you need to put it and hide all that shit away. I also know what it's like never to even get the appointments because no, sorry, we're full. It's really hard. And as I said, like I not just did Funda, I created all the web links of all the maculars I could find. I also created the Instagram account. I mean, I was doing anything and everything. I also cycled around and kept my eye out for any, what do they call those signs? Yeah, exactly. It's a crippling experience. And I think many of us are going to go through it, have gone through it, are going through it. And I really just want to kind of give you a shout out and, really wishing everyone the best because it is, I think, really impactful on my mental health, on my physical health, my emotional health, my relationship with my daughter, the tension in the air of the house as well. It's a really, really stressful period. And yeah, and the thing is like some people are telling me, oh, I was just talking to my colleague and they told me their house was for sale and that's how I bought my house. And you're like, that doesn't fucking help. It's just kind of like, I don't have those colleagues.
Yeah. And equally also don't feel guilty if you feel these feelings because of course we are in the privileged situation to buy a house. However, it doesn't reduce the stress. So don't feel guilty that you're feeling the stress and you feel overwhelmed and you feel all this tension. This is normal. Although, like I said, we are very fortunate that we even have the choice to do that. However, we are also entitled and allowed to feel these feelings and be stressed by it because it is a stressful experience. And also when you are already arriving here and coming from another country and then you have that shock and then finding a house, I mean, it just puts this extra layer of it's your home. Like you want to create a home, you want to have a place to land, you want it to be comfortable and you want it to be something that gives you shelter within this new environment. So it's okay. Like you are entitled to your feelings and don't feel stressed and guilty that you feel overwhelmed when there is people who are not in your situation, maybe where they cannot buy a house. It's still stressful.
And also to add something that you said to me as well, and I think other people have said it, is you're not buying a forever home. This isn't where, like, you mean, you could always sell as well if you're not happy. And I did meet someone who were so happy. They bought a home and they were so thrilled. And then within 1 year, they were moving back to their old location because the school wasn't a fit for their kids. They generally weren't happy. They didn't find the community that they thought they were going to find, even though they knew the area. And so they had to move within 12 months. So it ended up costing them quite a lot of money. But the thing is, like, that's always an option to know about. And I think that's still hard for me as well, because it's just, the market's just so beyond insane.
That's a good thing to always keep in mind. That, and this is coming back to this wish list where you're like, oh, you're looking for the house, and then of course you have in your mind, this is the house where you see yourself then in 20 years, in 15 years, in like a long time span. So be mindful that the house that I am living in now, I knew this is not going to be my forever home. But it is, I was planning for 10 years. I thought, can I see myself here for the next 10 years? Yes. So I will give it a go. If I would have said, oh, I can see myself here for 2 or 3 years, I would have probably not done it. However, if you are in a position where you say, all right, we were planning to leave in 5 years or 3 years, then this is totally fine for us. So always keep in mind, like, what's the time frame for this house or for this apartment?
Yeah. And as Maren said, when we were opening it, I really was getting back into my usual research kind of thing. And I was thinking, oh, let's bring on a mackerel. Let's bring on a hypothec. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Let's bring on people to have these discussions to give us the ins and outs. But the reality is, it's not about showcasing the topic itself and the businesses. The whole thing really for us was actually about our mental health. And it was really about acknowledging this is hard, giving ourselves permission to be overwhelmed, to do nothing, to just be in the moment. And I don't know who said it to me recently, but like, our move will be coming up shortly where we finally actually move. It's a case of, it is going to be a mess, and you are going to move, but the thing is, just kind of not lean into it, but just kind of like take it step by step, as it were. And it's just that whole thing of just kind of ticking off each day. I have my countdown calendar. I'm really kind of very much focused on the end result, but at the same time, that's technically me holding my breath for the move, which also is not healthy. And so,
are we going to have another podcast about your renovation?
Oh, there's not going to be a renovation. Actually, the apartment we bought is basically there's too much water damage from the outside because it's a massive building. And so the whole area has to have regrouting. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to be living in a leaky house for a couple of years until the grouting is done. So no renovation in the foreseeable future. But this is the thing. We accepted this house knowing that we are going to live in this terms and conditions. But, that's what I gave up, to kind of go, you know what, there's going to be leaks coming in, there's going to be damp or whatever. We know how to manage it and control it until the grouting is going to be done by the VVA, the housing association. So yeah, that's the terms that was the flexibility I had to give for us to take the apartment.
Well, so you'll be hearing more about Eva moving, settling in. We hope we will keep the episodes coming out, and you know that you can catch us every Monday and Wednesday on Damn Parenting Podcast. If you want to give us a follow, you can do that on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want to see more behind the episodes, you can also join us on Instagram, Damn Parenting Podcast. And of course, if you like this info that you get here, if you like us talking, if you like the expert talking, please make sure to share, like, and just spread the word that we're out here giving the expert knowledge on certain topics, and also chatting away in the DamChats. And hopefully we'll hear you on the next episode. Bye.